Hi guys, it's Simon from Desire RC. Today what we're going to do is have a quick look at the build of the Team Blacksheep Go Pro mount. It comes in two particular parts. First of all is the main kit, which we'll have a look at it in a second or two. That's the main construction made of ply. And the second part is the layer lens, which is put together to allow the transparent part of the lens cover for the box. Okay, now the one thing to remember here is that the actual lens that goes in here, I'll show you in a minute or two, that goes into this housing here, can be obtained. Probably the best place, the one that I found, is from Amazon, and basically it looks like this. We don't actually supply it. This is what you actually get in the kit. You actually get two lenses and some seals and various other bits and pieces, but basically that's what you end up getting, and I'll show you how that goes in a minute. But this is not part of the kit that we or Team Blacksheep supply. You need to obtain this on your own. I did look at trying to get them myself from GoPro, but they don't supply them on their own, which is a real pain, unfortunately, so we can't supply them directly. Anyway, on to the main build. Okay, what I've done is I've taken all the different bits out of the plastic bag, and you'll see all the different component parts. Quite a lot of this we won't actually be using, so I'll show you all the bits as they are. So those are all the component parts, and the bits that we'll actually be using for the build is one of these base plates, these three pieces, this piece, this piece, and this piece here. Okay, so the remaining parts we don't actually need for the time being. Well, you can use them for a separate element or as spares if you want, but for this particular part of the build, these are the bits that we need, and that's it. What I'll do now is I'll carry on, show you how the actual parts are put together, and then the last part will be how we actually put together the layer lens. Okay, what you notice here is I've put all the different component parts that we're going to use in the build, so that they're in the right kind of places and you can recognize which bits will go where. As you can see, this piece, for example, has got two holes in it, and this piece has got two, and this has got one, and there's a different shape, and they all fit into different places. The first thing to remember is that I've already prepared these, but when you get the kit you'll find that they've got little lugs where they've been cut from the you can just see it there, lugs where they've actually been cut from the original templates for the ply. There's another one there, for example, and what have you. Just take a little X-Acto knife and very carefully just shave those off, because they'll be getting in the way. One thing else, this middle slot here is quite tight, and you might need to just file it out very slightly with a little flat file, and we'll see that in a second. Okay, this is the base plate, and you'll see the orientation of it. This is the back plate, and basically these just fit together. Gently just push them together. Like so. And you'll see that they fit together. And basically you'll also see that in each one of these they've got the little holes. These are perfect locations for putting a little bit of CA in when it's completed and when you've done all the test build, so that you can actually glue it together, and then you can put additional glue in there if you feel necessary. Okay, the next piece is going to be this bit. Okay, you can see the shape of it. It's thicker at one end than the other. and basically it fits this way round. So the narrow piece with the pointy bit is at the bottom, and it slips into that gap there, which is why I mentioned earlier you might need to just file it away a little bit because it's quite tight, and it just sits like that. The next piece to fit is this one. Okay, and this is probably the only bit that's on here that's actually quite fiddly. You just slot it into this piece here, into this gap, and gently fit it over that front plate. Okay. Next piece is take this side part here. It fits on to this side, like so. Okay. Then this piece, oops, slips onto there. Okay, and finally this piece here just sits onto the top there. Okay, now this piece obviously is going to be removable, so because you need, presumably you will need access to your board camera. So I would suggest that you leave this accessible, so you put a little bit of tape on it or something like that so that you can actually hold it together. But that's basically that part of the build. Very straightforward, and once you're happy with it, you would obviously glue it all together. The next piece will be this, which you can't really see terribly easily from the black background here, but these are all the lens pieces that were in this packet. Okay, plus some Velcro strap. Now what I've done, the reason they're transparent obviously because I've taken all the backing cover off. They come with like a backing sheet, and you've got all little screws in here and what have you. So just take all that off, and then it's a case of assembling this together. Okay, and that's what we're going to do next. Right, what I've done here is I've just taken out the constituent parts of the layer lens. The only part that's not part of the kit that comes through is obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the lens itself, which I've taken out of the layer lens kit that I got from Amazon, which seems to be the best price. Shipping is free, and they seem to vary. If you shop around a little bit on Amazon, you can find them for around about £18 or less shipped. Okay, what happens is you get 2 of these, which is quite useful anyway, because this is designed to protect the main lens of your GoPro. So consequently, if it does get smacked into the ground, which is quite likely in my case, you want to be able to actually replace it anyway, so that's quite useful. Okay, so we'll show how that all fits together in a second or two. But essentially these are all the parts, the main constituent parts. This is what will eventually end up sitting on the front end of the cover of the GoPro mount, and I'll show you all that in a second or two. Okay, I'll start with the build now. Okay, the first thing to think about is the orientation of the plastic frame. If you remember the actual box, what will happen is this will actually fit like this into the GoPro box. Okay, so this is the orientation. The lens for the GoPro will look through here, obviously. Okay, now what we're going to do is try and get this a little bit closer to the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. This piece, which will actually fit onto the front of the camera, of the housing, like so, is keyed in a particular way. Now you'll probably see one side of this, if I can catch the light, is actually quite shiny. There you go. Alright, and the other side is matte. So what you want is the matte side facing out, and basically what will happen is it'll fit onto the frame like so. Okay. Then you have a front plate which is actually going to fit on the front of this. Now you'll see, if you look closely, if I take that away, that there are these little cutouts here and here. Okay, and they correspond to the little cutouts on the main frame, so that it actually sits square. You'll see those actually fit over the particular points, the square points. Okay, and similarly with this. This too has those cutouts, so you can see them. They sit in the right place. Okay. If I'm looking, so bear with me. So they sit square. You can just see that if I move them over, see the little corners, and they sit square. So it's important to remember when we actually go through the next stage, which is actually fitting the lens. Okay. The next piece is actually fitting the lens into the main housing. Okay. Now, as you remember a little earlier, I mentioned that one side of this is shiny. Okay. So have that facing you, because the lens is actually going to fit in from that side, so that when it's sitting on the housing, it'll be turned up that way. Okay. So basically, the shiny side out. Okay. And all you do is just place the lens inside it and push firmly, and you'll probably hear a click. I need to do this down here. Make sure it's in, which it is. There we go. It's now sitting in there. Right. What we're going to do now is place this piece over here, just to make sure everything's looking good and it's sitting square, which is good. Next bit, take this faceplate. Remember that it's get the cutouts in the right place, there and there. Okay, and gently just take one of the little screws and just feed it into the front, and repeat that, so you can see that one of the screws is in there now, and repeat that with the other 4 that hold the faceplate on. To make this easier for myself, I did actually just gently feed those screws into the hole in the first place to just start the little thread on there, so that they're in. Okay, so those 4 screws are now in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to screw them in until I can just feel them coming through the back plate. Just like so. Just coming through. Repeat that for the others. This just makes it a lot easier to locate onto the plastic main faceplate in a minute. Okay, that's all those 4 are temporarily in there. What I'm going to do is now take the other 2 screws and do a similar thing with the other two. I'm going to drop the screws. Again, just gently through there so I can feel them come through the back. And then we're done. Now what I'm going to do is put that onto the main plate, and you'll see obviously that it now all locates in the right place. And now what you can do is you can start screwing these into place. What you might find is where these have been cut, there might be like little bits of plastic that get pushed out, but that's fine, that's all part of it, so no worries. Not too tight at the moment because I'm going to get them all put in. When I've got them mostly in, I'll go back round and tighten them all up. Okay, so they're all in. What I need to do now is just go around and make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so they're all in now, there's no gaps. So that's the main front plate assembled. The next thing to do is take the Velcro strap and feed it through, so the eyes are on the bottom, hooks are on the top. Through the bottom slot, then turn it over back through that side. That's how you would adjust it. So basically that's the front plate assembled, and as I said earlier, it would sit in the camera box like so. And if you imagine when it's all glued together, you put the GoPro inside. In fact, why don't I just put the GoPro in and you can actually see what it looks like. So you pull this forward, GoPro would sit inside. Obviously all these parts would have been glued properly together. You can adjust the strap so it gives you the amount of slop that you need. And you basically cut that strap to the appropriate length. And there's your GoPro, nice and safe and secure in the housing. Okay, and if you need the access to those ports, those points there, then they're cut ready for you to do that. But obviously inside the Zephyr wing you may or may not want to have access to those. Okay, but you have access to the buttons on the top and the front to activate or switch on and switch off the GoPro. But nice and safe, nice and safe. So you've got all this lovely lens cover here to protect it. And that's pretty much the build. Just a little footnote about the board camera that you'd need to use to fit in here. This is typically what a board camera would look like, and as you can see in this particular case, it's got a wider edge which can be cut away, Obviously it won't fit like that, but if you take these edges off, then if you've got one that's actually got a housing already on it, then it will fit in there fine. But I tend to get hold of my cameras like this, and I'll mount them onto a different board, which takes some of the weight away, and it'll sit quite nicely in there with a little backing plate on it, which you can glue into place, and it will sit just nicely down inside the camera bay and can be connected. Cable comes through there and can be put through the little access portway that's already cut into the panel for you, and then you just feed it through as suggested on the installation instructions, which are also on the website. Okay, so that just helps to keep it nice and rigid, and as I mentioned earlier, just tape it down. That's it. Cheers.